On today's show, I can still hear the Ollie chants echoing through the CTC. We'll break down a goalie win 2-1 over the Detroit Red Wings on Monday night.
And no rest for the Sens as they're back at it tonight. We got a full game day preview for their game up against the Philadelphia Flyers.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Tuesday, March 11th, and Pilsy, holy smokes. Can't say the Sens deserved to win last night, but when you got a goalie like that, I mean, he's part of the team.
Yeah, Linus Ullmark, our guy, number 35, former Vezina winning goalie, reminded Sens fans and the rest of the league, most importantly, the Detroit Red Wings, that he's still got that game in his bag. And that was a big one, Ross, because we've kind of been looking at Linus Ullmark the last couple of games and being like, oh, he lets in one weak goal to start the game, then the Sens are behind, and then he figures it out later. He figured it out right from puck drop in this one, and that was great to see.
It was an outstanding performance. Of course, the second period is what people are still humming about all across the nation's capital today. 27 shots against and 27 saves. Tails in the postcast last night said he made a save every minute and 15 seconds last night. 49 shots against and only one beat him. Dylan Larkin in the third period early on. Like, this was a masterclass from Linus Ullmark in every sense of the word.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're the Ottawa Senators, you can't rely on playing this type of game to have sustained success. But once in a while, Ross, you need your number one goalie to be able to pull out a game like this and steal a win like this, especially up against an Atlantic Division rival in the Detroit Red Wings and a team that you're battling for a wild card spot with. So this was just crucial. I like the other side of it. If you're a Red Wings fan, you got to be looking at this being like, we came into Ottawa, 5-game losing streak. We outplayed them like crazy, and we can't even muster up a single point. Like, that's tough to be on the other side of this, but they got sensed.
Second time this year, right? The other one was a late goal from Josh Norris. This time a late goal from Dylan Cozens on the power play. 5 minutes left, and the Senators take a 2-1 score, the exact same score as earlier on in the season when Norris broke that tie. I believe that one was in the final minute of the game, if I'm not mistaken.
It was late, yeah.
It was super late. So we'll get into all that. I was listening to our good friends Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley over at Locked On Red Wings, and they were kind of shaking their head too. They're like, of course, Linus Ullmark is unbelievable. The Red Wings had interest in Linus Ullmark when he was on the trade market. They said they've done 5 or 6 shows talking about what a Dylan Cozens trade to Detroit would look like.
Oh, yeah.
And their other goal scorer, former Red Wing David Perron.
Yeah, that's tough. Was Dylan Cozens that much on the trade block that other fan bases were thinking about it? I saw a guy over at our Habs friends. He posted, what's his account again? I'm blanking on it.
Oh, Habs Fan TV.
Habs Fan TV. Thank you. My bad. He tweeted out, should the Habs have looked at Dylan Cozens as well after this? Because I think especially other Atlantic Division teams were like, he was right there for us to have a chance at. But it would have cost you a Josh Norris type player, which
good player
is not easy just to, I don't want to say give up, but it's not easy to put in a trade package. You got to have confidence that the guy you're getting back in Dylan Cozens not only is going to be able to rejuvenate his game, but is going to be a good fit. And Ross, this Cozens fits into the family just nicely.
It certainly does. In the next segment, we'll break down the first 2 games of Dylan Cozens as an Ottawa Senator. But let's talk about the guy making his Senators debut. Fabian Zetterlund was on the 4th line, pretty much stayed there, had a couple shifts with Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk, but for the most part was on that line with Adam Gaudette and Matthew Highmore. What was your first impression of Zetterlund?
This guy, it comes as advertised, Ross. He's a complete tank. I love the little highlight pack that Amazon Prime made of him in his first, I think it was even the first period, Ross, where he only had a couple shifts, but there was like 3 or 4 reverse hits where Wings players thought they had him in the train tracks. They're going to finish their clean check, and then boop, just bounces right off him, and they get the worst of it when they thought they were going to knock him down or knock him off the puck. And he had a really good scoring chance in front, in tight. He outbattles Ben Sherratt in front. Adam Gaudette feeds him the puck from behind the net, and he gets a really good scoring opportunity there. I really like Fabian Zetterlund. I think, he's playing on the fourth line in his first game. I think he did get moved up with the lineup once or twice, not for sustained periods, but also he did
less than I thought.
Yeah, which is okay. But also he spent some time on the power play. So I think maybe even as soon as tonight, Ross, we're recording before we have Sens updated lines here.
I don't think they're going to skate today back to back. So we'll see tonight. But he played 1 minute on a line with Ridley Gregg and Adam Gaudette, 24 seconds with Stützle and Tkachuk. But what I wanted to get at with Zetterlund too is in a game where the Ottawa Senators got outshot 48 to 23?
49 to 23.
When Fabian Zetterlund was on the ice at 5-on-5, there were 11 shot attempts for Ottawa and 4 against.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Ross. Like, Steve Staios targeted the 5-on-5 production, and having a guy like Fabian Zetterlund that's able to get the shot attempts in the right side in the Ottawa Senators' favor, especially when he moves up the lineup, which I anticipate he will, is going to be a big boost. So I'm all for Fabian Zetterlund. And we got more information about that trade on the trade deadline, 27 seconds before the deadline hit. And Steve Staios really had to work and be persistent with Sharks GM Mike Greer, and they were able to get a deal done that both teams liked.
Former teammates for one season with the Edmonton Oilers, Steve Staios and Mike Greer. Yeah, I looked through the Elite Prospects connections page, and I knew that Staios obviously played such a long time in Edmonton. I thought it was going to be more than one season, but there you have it. A little insight background to that deal and how GMs, there's so many connections in the world of hockey, and there's one between the two that got that deal done. Big fan of Fabian Zetterlund. That first goal doesn't happen. I know he doesn't get an assist. I tweeted early, asked questions later saying Fabian Zetterlund first point with the Sens. He'll have to wait for that, but his battle there along the wall freed that puck up for Claude Giroux to find David Perron. So credit goes there to Zetterlund. I'm sure Giroux would say that, but that assist for Claude Giroux, it hits 40 points this season. There's been ups and downs for G in terms of offensive creation. He's been an elite defensive player on the PK, and his faceoff percentage, I believe, is number 1 in the National Hockey League. LOSP stats department is working to confirm, but he is as advertised. Consistency is the name of the game for Claude Giroux. He has now hit 40 points in a season 16 different times in his career.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Claude Giroux. Maybe it's not as emphatic as his Philly days or even as emphatic as his first year with the Sens, but he's quietly getting things done. And the fact that he's snapping back draws at the success rate that he is right now is so amazing.
LOSB stats department can confirm Claude Giroux leads the National Hockey League in face-off percentage among players who have taken at least 40 face-offs this year, 61.9%. Vincent Trocheck is second at 59.7%. So he's got 2.2% better than the entire National Hockey League. 16 times this guy scored at least 40 points in a season. The only time he didn't was when he was 21 years old and only played in 40 games. So Claude Giroux, aging like a fine wine. Let's get back quickly to Linus Ullmark before we move on to the conversation around Dylan Cozens. We're also going to preview tonight's game between the Senators and the Philadelphia Flyers. And we'll get to the Flyers, but this is one of those where after a trade deadline where you're sellers, we got to look up some guys to see who the heck is in the lineup for them. But with Linus Ullmark last night, the goals saved above expected, which takes the total expected goals minus what they actually let in. And you've got a goalie who saved more than 3 expected goals in a game. This was a goalie win, as our good friend Mike Kelly would say.
Big time goalie win, Ross. I mean, if the Ottawa Senators were able to get a point in this game, I think we still would have been praising Linus Ullmark and giving him the props he deserved. The fact that they were able to get 2 points and not allow the Red Wings to get a single point is all credit to Linus Ullmark. Like, sure, other players had great games. That Dylan Cozens goal was absolutely clutch, but none of this is even relevant at all without the stellar performance of Linus Ullmark.
I still can't get over that play at the very end of the game, though. 2 seconds left, offensive zone faceoff for Detroit. They win the faceoff, then they win the battle in the slot, and Lucas Raymond thinks he scored. This guy was celebrating like he won a playoff series. Goes one knee down, sallies to the wall, jumps into the glass. Everybody, I'm surprised they didn't ditch the gloves like golden goal style, and it wasn't even close. The puck was still on Lucas Raymond's stick when 000 hit the board. So that's a bit of a tough look. You know, they even did the flyby on the bench. Like they all did the props. Like what? Excuse me? Maybe check the game tape first, fella.
Hey, you know what, Ross? I don't blame them. If you think you scored, try to sell that and at the very least get a review. But it's tough when the Sens weren't having any of it. Like the Sens were already doing the goalie hugs and
everyone was celebrating at the same time.
Everybody was celebrating. Thanks, Detroit Red Wings. We're just all celebrating the success of the Ottawa Senators. Thank you very much. But yeah, but I will say, Ross, like if that had gone in, that would have been absolutely incredible because that's one of those things where I'm sure teams and coaches, they practice. All right, there's only a few seconds on the clock. O-zone draw. How are we going to push so that we can get the puck and get it towards the net as quick as possible? And they think they did it. Not so fast. Sens dub.
Hilarious visual there. Senators now with 71 points on the season. First in the wild card race. Of course, we'll get to an out-of-town scoreboard look tonight. Who a Senators cheering guide will look like and more. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Factor. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Well, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle. They even got smoothies, breakfast, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I love how Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. I hate the anxiety you get when you're trying to figure out what's for dinner at 4 o'clock and nobody wants to go to the grocery store. You didn't pull meat out of the freezer. Don't worry about that with Factor. I love how convenient it is. It's unbeatable. No prep, sweet. No mess, awesome. And just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off and use code LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnNHL50 off, the number 50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off to get your 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. It's Factor.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. When you need a night out, GLEBE Central Pub is there for you. It's at 779 Bank Street. They've got great food, awesome drinks. The vibes are free at the GCP, and I say that genuinely. Whenever you walk through that door, you know you're going to have a good time. We had the smash burgers last weekend when we were there. They were delicious. Great fries, crispy on the side. And I love the fact that the vibes at the GCP include TVs everywhere. They got the huge screen with the sports on, always rocking the games. And the Sens Shuttle is like no other experience. It's one thing to just sit on the Queensway and wait to get to the CTC, but to be among 50 of your best friends, all rooting for the Ottawa Senators, is just a whole different world of emotions. If you're a single, you're going to the game, you're like, oh, I want to be around Sens fans. Everybody is friendly at the GLEBE Central Pub. It's no clicks at the GCP. Everybody hangs out and gets to the game together. The bus leaves an hour and 15 minutes before the game and then brings you right back to the pub after. The next bus is going this Thursday, Senators against the Boston Bruins. So be there and get your tickets online at GLEBECentralPub.com. And because it's a Sens game day, get to the pub early. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you and get 10% off your order. That's the GCP, 779 Bank Street, our pub in the heart of the Glebe. All right, Pilsy, game day for the Ottawa Senators against the Philadelphia Flyers. We'll break that down in the final segment on today's show. But there are 11 games in the National Hockey League tonight, and we've got rooting interests in a number of them. Let's first look at the standings. And Pilsy, it's getting fun. It's getting. You okay if I pull up the standings, bud?
I would love nothing more, Ross. Let's do it.
All right, the standings here. The Ottawa Senators, 63 games played, 71 points. They've got a record of 33, 25, and 5. They've got 2 more wins than anybody else in the wild card race. So those overtime loser merchants, they can get in line behind the Ottawa
Ross.
Senators.
They lead regulation wins. Oh wait, no.
Second.
Do the Rangers have more? Yeah,
Rangers have 29.
Have more. Yeah, geez, that surprised me. But one thing I like to see, Ross, for the first time in a while, no red numbers in the goal differential. The Sens are even, 180 goals for, 180 goals against.
Yeah, they were green numbers for a long time, and then they went to Florida before the Four Nations.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, so the Columbus Blue Jackets are 1 point behind Ottawa, same amount of games played. But what I really like that's obviously close, 1 point. Nobody else is within 2 points of the Ottawa Senators. The Rangers are 3 points back, and Ottawa has a game in hand. The Canadiens have played the same amount of games as Ottawa, and now they're 5 points back. So too are the Red Wings. Sens have a game in hand on them. The Bruins, same. And Ottawa has 2 games in hand there. I know the Islanders, they're 6 points back of Ottawa. Can't count anybody out. We know heaters have happened, but after they moved on from Brock Nelson and everything, you'd be surprised if they're able to push their way up the standings. And just for completeness sake, and because we're playing the Flyers tonight, Flyers are next with 62 points. So the Flyers are now 9 points back of Ottawa. They've lost 4 games in a row. So that turns us to tonight's cheering guide. Pilsy. Tonight, the Ottawa Senators will be rooting for the New Jersey Devils. Now, it's not the end of the world if the Blue Jackets win this game, because the Blue Jackets are battling the Devils for 3rd place in the Metropolitan here, and the Devils are reeling already without Jack Hughes for the rest of the year. So I'm actually going to label this a no overtime game, and I'll leave it at that.
And with the Columbus Blue Jackets, Ross, I want them to be the other team in the wild card spot, because the Sens play them 3 times. Keep that in mind, guys. 3 times the Sens play them, twice at home for the rest of the season. And I would much rather have the Senators and Blue Jackets battling for who's in wild card 1 and who's wild card 2 than battling for who's in a wild card spot and who's not. You know what I mean? So it's nice to keep them kind of close ties with us.
So we're going to move our attention then. And again, what I love about these cheering guides is nights like this where we're cheering for good teams to beat the teams around us. We're going to be rooting for the Florida Panthers on the road, taking on the Boston Bruins. Even though Brad Marchand was just traded from Boston to Florida, he will not be in the lineup. He's still dealing with an injury.
And Ross, there will be another omission from the Florida Panthers lineup. Oh my God. Aaron Ekblad, a 20-game suspension from the NHL for use of PEDs. That's quite a bombshell.
Yeah, so you can take PEDs and get suspended half the amount of time as if your buddy sets your fantasy football lineup.
Yeah, that is... The NHL hates the Ottawa Senators. That's clear.
So we're also rooting, and this is our biggest cheering for tonight, the Winnipeg Jets. At home, Luke Shen in the lineup. Brandon Tanev making his home debut for Winnipeg. They're taking on the New York Rangers, who are, as we mentioned with the standings, the team closest to Ottawa on the outside looking in. And Pilsy, we're all Canucks, buddy. We're all Canucks, eh? Vancouver over Montreal is our final team tonight.
Yeah,
Funny enough, that's the Canucks against the Canadians.
I was going to say, we're all Canucks, not Canadians.
Yeah.
And Ross, I would say big time get the Jets pom-poms out, because for me, the New York Rangers are the team that are outside looking in that I'm most worried about for sure.
Which makes it even more important that Ottawa was able to erase that 3-1 deficit with 7 minutes left, come back, get the OT win over the Rangers. So go Jets, go. We're rooting for the Jets, the Vancouver Canucks, the Florida Panthers, and no overtime in the Devils Blue Jackets game tonight. To a lesser extent, it'd be great if the LA Kings could beat the New York Islanders, but again, we're not so worried about that. Pilsy, how about Dylan Cozens fitting in like a glove? Not only does he score the game winner last night, of course, that's the headline. That's what's going to get people talking. But his 200-foot game and how he's fit in is miles ahead of where I thought it would be this early.
Yeah, it's crazy how easy this transition has looked for him, Ross. Even like there's some trades and moves where you see guys in new jerseys and you're like, that's weird. Like, that doesn't look right. Like Josh Norris in a Buffalo Sabres jersey. I'd be interested to hear Sabres fans what they think about it. But for me, I was like, that just does not look right. Whereas Dylan Cozens, he fits seamlessly into an Ottawa Senators jersey. I mean, they're beautiful jerseys, so who doesn't? But he's looked so good. Pretty much every shift he's been out there, Ross, even if it's not something big like an offensive scoring chance or an assist or a power play goal or even his hits, just the little things he does, I find myself being impressed with him all over the ice. Like the way he cuts down angles when he's hustling back on a back check, the way he's able to break the puck out of the defensive zone to start neutral zone transitions, just all these little things I'm very impressed with Dylan Cozens. So I like the trade when it happened, Ross, and I feel vindicated now after seeing Cozens, how he fits in with this team. It's a nice move.
He was great last night, and he's just been elite in the dot as well. Our good friend Everyday Sens did the whole stat pack for him, but he had 8 hits again. So 17 hits now in 2 games for Dylan Cozens. Crazy. After Sabres fans just kept saying, oh, he doesn't hit, he's not physical. Well, I think the stats tell another story there. He also won 8 out of 12 faceoffs last night, had 1 drawn penalty, and Ottawa scored on that man advantage, the David Perron goal. 3 shots on goal, 5 shot attempts, and this has just been a lot of fun to watch now as we pull up the 2 games we've seen, averaging 15 minutes and 46 seconds. He's got a 61.9 faceoff percentage. If you caught it earlier in the show, that's Claude Giroux's faceoff percentage for the year, which leads the National Hockey League. So I understand small sample size, but he's snapping them back at a great percentage. He had the assist in his first game, a huge assist too, right? That gets the ball rolling for the comeback and then scores the game winner. So can't say enough about Dylan Cozens and how he's fitting in. It seems like it's a win-win. Josh Norris had a great assist last night. We're nothing but rooting for Josh Norris to have a great NHL career. It's more the money that you save on that contract from Norris. You were able to get Fabian Zetterlund. Like that to me is where it becomes a massive win for the Ottawa Senators. If Josh Norris stays healthy, Sabres fans are going to love him. He's a great player. But for the fit and the right shot centerman that Ottawa was looking for, holy smokes, Dylan Cozens has played great for the Ottawa Senators.
And you get a little bit more size with Dylan Cozens as well. And yeah, I think I hate to focus on this, but Josh Norris, he told us himself when we interviewed him, the injuries have been really tough on him. And, you know, when you're a young centerman with multiple shoulder surgeries and you're signed to a long-term deal, it can be a cause for concern for sure, to no fault of Josh Norris's, but Dylan Cozens simply does not have that attached to him. So that's also a huge victory for the Sens, having a young centerman with the same amount of years on his contract,
2 years younger too.
2 years younger, $800,000 less per year, and no serious injuries concerns attached to him. So yeah, Dylan Cozens, I'm fired up about this, Ross. He looks.
Let us know what you've liked about Dylan Cozens' game so far and where you think he could get even better. For me, getting better is just a matter of getting more comfortable with his line mates. I feel like the expected goals percentage at 5-on-5 is pretty low right now for him, but the actual goals is pretty good.
You got to keep him with Batherson. I think no matter what happens, those two, they click, they've got something.
All right, let's get to a game day preview. You don't have to wait long to watch Dylan Cozens back in action tonight. Sens and Flyers. It is a 7 o'clock Eastern start. We'll have the postcast for you after the game, but let's look ahead to tonight's game after the break. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. They're not called good pistachios or all right pistachios, Ross. They're called Wonderful Pistachios because that's a snack that's both delicious and nutritious. Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily needed value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. My favorite flavor is the salt and pepper flavor. Check that out in the light purple bags. But if you don't want to deal with the shells, check out the no shells variety. It's just pistachios in the bag. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. But I love the feeling of you got to work a little bit and then you get the nice satisfying crack and you get your beautiful reward of pistachio. So
like an oyster.
It is kind of like an oyster. Yeah, they call them the oysters of the trees, Ross, is what I'm hearing. Actually, I just coined that right now.
A tree oyster.
A tree oyster of pistachio. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
All right, Billsy, game day for the Ottawa Senators in Philadelphia, taking on the Flyers, a team that got an unfortunate victory against Ottawa much earlier on in the season. Some would say it was one of the lowest points of the Senators season. They were up 2 goals in the third period, and Philly was able to tie it late and get an overtime victory. Matvei Michkov scored the game winner in that one, where Ottawa outshot Philly 37-19. Couldn't be us getting outshot that bad and losing, eh? Or outshooting our opponents that bad and losing.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it happens every once in a while. I actually forgot about that game, Ross, but I do remember the Matvei Michkov goal because that was kind of the buzz storyline of the day was this kid's legit.
Yeah, Ullmark allowed 5 goals on 19 shots in that game. All right, we're a long way from that with a 47 save performance he's coming off of. And as we look at the Senators lines, I'll save what I was about to say for my locked on player to watch. Tonight's expected lineup, we're just going to put the exact same one as last night. Of course, no morning skate today. Tim Stützle is between Brady Tkachuk and Claude Giroux. Dylan Cozens with David Perron and Drake Batherson. Shane Pinto centering Ridley Gregg and Michael Amadio. And the fourth line, with quotations in the air, Adam Gaudette with Matthew Highmore and Fabian Zetterlund. On the back end, Jake Sanderson with Artem Zub, Thomas Chabot and Nick Jensen, Tyler Klevin with Nicholas Matin-Palo, and it has to be Anton Forsberg tonight. Eh, Bills?
If I speak, Ross, who knows what'll happen here. So I'll let the quote board say it has to be Anton Forsberg tonight, right? Ross Levitan.
Oh yeah, put it on me. I think it was
you
our
said
guy.
It.
I think it was our guy Tyler Ray, but someone said, I appreciate Linus Ullmark for understanding he wasn't going to play tomorrow and putting 2 games worth of saves into last night.
Yeah, it's like sometimes, Ross, on a Monday at work, you're like, all right, I'm rested. I'm feeling good. I'm just going to put everything in today so that I can coast for the rest of the week. So that's very relatable.
My locked on player tonight is the captain, Brady Tkachuk. Holy smokes. He had his big game, obviously, against the New York Rangers, 2 goals on Saturday. But the captain, since coming back from 4 Nations, says, I'm going to be an animal out there. Well, what's he done? 5 goals and an assist in his last 5 games. And he's +2, and he's playing well away from the puck. He's an emotional leader. If you watch the Senators on the after the game clip they post on social media, Travis Green said, Brady, what did you keep saying on the bench? Game 7, we're winning this no matter what. He's the emotional leader of the team. He's the physical leader of the team. And Brady Tkachuk is going to be a guy that tonight on the second half back-to-back with travel, he's going to have his troops ready to go. I'm expecting him to have a big night and a big start. I'm going to have Brady Tkachuk first period goal as my my little extra prop tonight. A little $7 in honor of his number I'll be throwing on that. I think this is a Brady Tkachuk game tonight, and I'm going to be watching the captain to lead his troops.
Ross, what animal would you say Brady Tkachuk has embodied during this stretch?
Well, as our good friend Dwayne Norris once told us, he's a moose out there.
All right, so he's been a moose recently. Love it. You know what?
I was going to say, if you actually want to get into this, I was going to say a rhino.
Okay, I was thinking something more from the African line of animals, because it's...
You do know that moose are like extremely scary creatures, right? Like,
yeah.
Like they're not like
videos
the
of
moose
them
is
charging
on
at
the
you,
loose.
and they are hustling. And if they got you in their train tracks when they're going full speed, it's pretty scary what they can do. And you see a lot of the times like tourists trying to get close to moose, trying to take pictures, and you're like, you don't know what that thing is capable of. Don't get too close.
You know that a moose can also jump 6 feet in the air?
Well, I mean, they're like 15 feet tall, so that's an easy feat for them. Have you been that close to a moose, Ross?
Not the fact that it could like almost jump over me, but yeah, I got to see one on the Cabot Trail. Shout out to our Atlantic listeners. And funny enough, we did the Highline Trail. If anyone's out, is it the Highline Trail? Highline Trail, Cape Breton. Yeah, it is the Skyline Trail in Highlands National Park. And we were kind of like looking for one the whole way through, Pilsy. And you know where we saw the moose? In the parking lot after our hike.
Of course. But yeah, I've been pretty close to a moose in Algonquin Park, and it is you can't believe your eyes when you're close enough to really fathom how big they are. So let's stick with the moose, Ross, because captain of the nation's capital, Ottawa. Let's keep it Canadian with the moose here.
Heck yeah! Who's your locked on player to watch?
We've already went in depth on him, so I'm not going to say too much about it, but I love watching Dylan Cozens in an Ottawa Senators jersey, so I'm going to be locked on to number 24. An assist one night, a power play game-winning goal the next. What's next for Dylan Cozens? I can't wait to find out.
Well, how about his first career goal against Philly? How's that for a little stat check on the fly? Locked on Senators stat department. In 16 games against Philly, he has 5 assists, no goals. Funny enough, this guy struggles against Pennsylvania as a team, as a state. He has 18 games, no goals against Pittsburgh, and 16 games, no goals against Philly. The only other team he hasn't scored on is Utah.
Oh my God. Well, probably not Buffalo either.
Oh, and Arizona. So that franchise. Yeah. And well, he's never played Buffalo.
Dang, that's math guy. That's 34 games against Pennsylvania teams with no goals. Thank goodness we're not seeing either of those teams in the playoffs. Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah, let's snap that streak there, Dylan. Let's go.
All right, let's look at the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. Their lineup, you might have to get the Hockey DB pages open for this, or our friends at Elite Prospects. Noah Cates is their top line center with Tyson Forster and Bobby Brink. The second line is Sean Couturier with Owen Tippett and Matvey Michkov. The third line is Ryan Poehling with, is it Owen Lixell?
Not sure, Ross. I'd be lying if I gave you a pronunciation.
Ole, not Owen. Ole Lixell,
yes.
And Travis Konechny. And then, I mean, this one's another tough one. We've got Rodrigo Abols. Okay, got that right. Latvian 7th round pick for Vancouver in 2016. 6'4" centerman is playing his 12th NHL game with Nick Delorier and Jacob Pelletier. On the back end, it's Travis Sanheim with Cam York, Igor Zamula with Rasmus Ristolainen, and Nick Seeler with Jamie Drysdale. It'll either be Samuel Ersson or Ivan Fedotov, and Fedotov was in goal for that 5-4 comeback win against Ottawa earlier on this year. He's an enormous human being, big goaltender, takes up a lot of room. Ersson, a little more undersized, but can move well in the goal. Who is your lookout player to watch for the Philadelphia Flyers?
My lookout player to watch is going to be number 71, Tyson Forster. Ross, this is a guy we covered in our prospect profiles in 2020, and you and I really liked the potential that this kid has. He was drafted 23rd in the 2020 draft by the Flyers. This season in 64 games, he has 16 goals, 14 assists, good for 30 points. He hasn't really been that streaky of a player. He kind of gets a point every 3 games from what I'm looking at his game logs here. He did have an assist last game up against the New Jersey Devils, but I just like his all-round game and the fact that he's going to be on a top line with 2 other young players in Noah Cates and Bobby Brink. That's a young line, but they've got a lot of potential. So I'm going to be looking out for number 71.
Okay, I'll go with Matvei Michkov as my lookout player to watch. The super rookie already has 20 goals, 47 points this season in 63 games. He's a guy who gets a ton of offensive zone starts. 65% of his zone starts come in the offensive zone. He's a one-dimensional scorer. So if you're Ottawa, and I know that they've got him playing with Sean Couturier, Matvei Michkov, and Owen Tipp, like for me, that's the top line on this team. That's the line that's going to be the most dangerous. This is a line where if I'm Ottawa, I'm getting the Pinto line out there against him every single shift. Make life tough on him. Have Michael Amadio and his strong stick. Try to just don't give Matvei Michkov time and space because he's a magician with the puck. So we're going to be really looking out for Matvei Michkov in this game. Among NHL rookie scorers, this guy is right near the top in almost every category. Maybe you can check, what do our friends at FanDuel have for the Calder right now? Because Michkov with 47 points, he's second on the team behind Travis Konechny, who is somehow on the third line. Konechny has a 19 or I'm not a math guy. 64 points versus 47. What's the difference there, Pills?
Sorry, the stats department is working on the Calder
17
odds there.
Konechny's got a 17-point lead atop the team, and then it's Michkov, and then it's 11 more points until Owen Tippett, who's third on the Flyers in scoring. So as we look out for Matvei Michkov, we're also looking at a Flyers team that struggles almost all across the board. The Flyers have the 29th ranked power play in the National Hockey League. They have the 18th ranked penalty kill. They're near the bottom of the league in goals for per game, sitting 22nd, and in goals against per game. It's ugly. They are the 5th highest goals against per game. Only Chicago, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and San Jose allow more than the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, that's tough. So on FanDuel, Macklin Celebrini is minus 260 for the Calder, Lane Hudson plus 350, and then Matvei Michkov third with plus 550.
Okay, there you go. Key to victory tonight for the Ottawa Senators, Pilsy.
It was my key to victory for the last game, but it didn't pan out, Ross, but I'm going to roll it into this one. Let's get a 5-on-5 goal. Both goals were scored on the power play up against the Detroit Red Wings. I think you're going to have a much easier time than you did up against the Red Wings, 5-on-5, much weaker, rebuilding, younger team here in Philly with a lot less to play for than the Detroit Red Wings had. But you can't take any team lightly. As we talked about, the Flyers did find a way to sneak come back and get the win earlier this season. But I want to see some 5-on-5 scoring here. And up against a team like Philly, you should be able to accomplish that.
Ottawa's been so good when scoring first. They're 26-5-0 this year when they get the first goal of the game. It was nice playing with a lead for a little while. Now, they couldn't make it a 2-goal lead at any point, so they weren't able to kind of get into their defensive structure of being a prevent-style defense. So I think playing with the lead is going to be critical tonight, especially on the road. Take the crowd out of it early. This is a team that's lost 4 in a row in Philly, so if you can really kind of step on their throat early, that could be a key to success tonight. Stay out of the box. Don't let Philadelphia get any looks. I know their power play isn't potent, but they can still beat you. And Ottawa's PK, this diamond formation, don't even get me started on how much they're giving up down low, which is where Matvei Michkov likes to patrol on the power play. So for me, it's get out to an early lead. Don't give the Flyers any semblance of hope in tonight's game. And we know that as a game goes along on your second half back-to-back with travel, you can kind of lose your legs a little bit. And that's where if you have a 2, 3, 4 goal lead, you might be able to withstand a late push from the Philadelphia Flyers, who were off yesterday and will be fresh after their game on Saturday afternoon at home. So they're going to be coming out strong, survive the first 5 minutes, get the first goal of the game, play with the lead, and stay out of the penalty box. My keys to victory tonight. Billsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Yes, I feel like it's been a while since we had a Blake Montgomery update, so I quickly looked up what he's up to on Elite Prospects. Certainly, he's cooled down a bit, Ross, but I mean that's to be expected. He was insanely hot throughout the year, but in 45 games, he's at 22 goals, 26 assists for 48 points, still above a point per game pace. And the London Knights, put a beat down on the Sarnia Sting, Ross. How about this? It sounded like my beer league scores, the Cheesed LTD in Wasaga Beach beer league hockey. They beat the Sarnia Sting 9-0. And Blake Montgomery had one of those 9 goals, of course. So the London Knights are rolling. They are on a 4-game win streak where in that stretch, Blake Montgomery has a goal and an assist. So we're going to be continuing to watch our guy BMO as he lights it up with the Knights.
Absolutely. My final thoughts is happy trails to Sam Gagner. The Belleville Senators and Sam Gagner have mutually agreed to part ways. Kind of makes me think that Sam Gagner was holding out hope that around the trade deadline, he would get an NHL contract. It didn't come that way. And a player with over 1,000 games, all accounts, was an amazing leader down there with the Belleville Senators. He's moved on in his hockey journey, and 35 years old, played 19 games with Belleville, had 10 assists and no goals, was a +1. So a nice little cup of coffee for Sam Gagner with Belleville, but he is no longer with the team down there. We've got Senators hockey tonight, 7 o'clock puck drop, Senators and the Philadelphia Flyers. We will see you in the postcast after tonight's game. For today, we say goodbye. For more, go check out last night's postcast where we hit a record number of views, over 1,000 people live in the chat. It's a great, great time seeing everybody so excited about these Ottawa Senators, and we want to keep it rolling and keep it rolling, eh? For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and subscribing to the show. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.